protest on a small, quiet New England college campus ended up echoing around the world. Conservative author Charles Murray had been invited to speak at Vermont's Middlebury College, one of the nation's most elite liberal arts schools. Hundreds of students jammed in an auditorium to interrupt his talk. Murray has written books like The Bell Curve, Intelligence and Class Structure in American Life, which in part focused on the connection between race and IQ. Murray had to be escorted out of the room, was met by a group which pushed and shoved him and his professor escort. She ended up in the ER. Protesters reportedly banged on his windows and climbed on the hood of his car.
Overnight mayhem on campus.
Just weeks before, another controversial conservative, former Breitbart editor Milo Yiannopoulos, sparked protests at the University of California at Berkeley ahead of a scheduled speech. Campus suffered $100,000 worth of damage, and the speech was never delivered. And you remember Condoleezza Rice, Secretary of State in the Bush administration, canceled a commencement address at Rutgers in 2014. Students threatened protest over her support of the Iraq War. She wrote on Facebook that, quote, commencement should be a time of joyous celebration for the graduates and their families. Rutgers' invitation to me has become a distractions show. Should all of these people have been heard, or should a segment of a college community be able to veto a voice? Joining me are civil liberties attorney Harvey Silverglate. Hello, Harvey. Gail Dines, professor of sociology and women's studies at Wheelock College. Nice to see you. And Lee Pelton is president of Emerson. Good to see you again. So, Harvey, let's ignore the physical violence because they don't even know if it's students, outsiders. Let's just talk about the talking. Why should Charles Murray, who's obviously advanced some pretty abhorrent notions to students and faculty, at least some segment of Middlebury, why should he be able to speak there?
Why should he be?
Yeah.
Well, partly because you just mischaracterized what he has written.
How so?
I don't happen to agree with what he, to the extent that I understand this stuff, I don't happen to agree with what he wrote, but he's, widely viewed as a racist. I don't think it's fair to characterize him as a racist. But
those
if he were a racist,
exactly.
he should be allowed. There is no reason, if a liberal arts campus, if somebody can't state a controversial view on a liberal arts campus, then it's not a liberal arts campus.
Well, shouldn't the students also have that right of speech? And if their speech drowns
out his? They have a right to speech, but they don't have a right to stop him from speaking. There is a clear line between those two.
Would he have been allowed to have spoken at Emerson, had been invited by some group there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you're not troubled by, let's assume there was the same segment of the population, student and faculty, who did find his ideas to be racist, to be white nationalist. Still okay with you?
Yes, because the hallmark of free speech is not to protect comfortable speech. In fact, it's to protect speech that we find odious or provide, it's discomfort. And so, I mean, that's the hallmark of freedom of expression in our country. In the continent, in Europe, it's different, but yeah, of course he would be.
But there's speech codes at Emerson? Do you have standards that people are supposed to adhere to?
The only speech code is that we respect and we encourage a diversity of perspective and ideas and expression.
My guess is you're not going to make it unanimous, Gail Dines. Is that a safe assumption?
No, I actually think he should have been allowed to speak. I think it should have been used as a teachable moment. I mean, I abhor a lot of what Charles Murray says. I actually teach him in my sociology classes as an example of bad scholarship, for a start, because I don't think his scholarship is very good.
Do you think I mischaracterized his...
No, I would call him a racist. I think his positions are racist, definitely. But I think the hallmark of an academic institution is basically, I wouldn't just say free speech, but it's speech open to different perspectives. And it's our job as professors as a way to engage them in intellectual curiosity. So when I bring in Charles Murray, we do a whole analysis, actually, which he ignores, about the ways in which race has been created and sustained in this country.
Is there anybody who shouldn't be allowed to speak on the Wheelock campus or Emerson or Middlebury?
Well, I can't speak for Wheelock. That's not my job.
If you were the decision
I would not want to see the Breitbart person brought in. Absolutely not. Yeah, Breitbart.
Milo, whose last name I butchered a couple minutes ago. Why?
Yeah, I'm butchering Breitbart as well. I would not want to see that because I think he incites. That's the difference. I think he comes in, particularly as does the organisation, to incite racial hatred, to incite homophobia, to incite misogyny. And let's put it in the context of what is going on in this country, but we have opened the door to a kind of discourse that has made it, I think, unsafe for many minority groups.
Some people say the exact same thing you said about him, about the President of the United States. Should he be barred from speaking in a school if you were the final decision maker?
I wouldn't bar him, but I would certainly love to have classes all around discussing exactly his views and what fake news looked like and how he got elected.
But does anybody wait?
No, I disagree.
Why?
Well, I think that any provocateur, whether it's the left or the right, should be under most circumstances allowed to speak. Now, if you invite someone to campus and it's clear that their presence on campus is going to create a kind of disruption that you cannot prepare for, then you might make a decision. But that's not about that person speaking.
What's
that's
that
about
decision?
Providing
To not have him or her speak, or to just make sure there's adequate security? What do you mean?
Well, I think you would try to make everything you could do to make security possible for that person to speak,
so
and also to provide a forum for that to speak. So so for Murray, for instance, I would have probably had not one person invited to this event, but two: someone who's in opposition to him and someone to support him. So you could, in fact,
they effectively did that. But the professor who was arguing on the other side, she ended up in the hospital.
Alison Stang, yeah, she did there. So, but let me just stay here. So there's nobody, essentially, if a student group or faculty invite, there's nobody on your list of not welcome in every
No, I'm not saying. I said if there are circumstances under which I would feel as president that I could not provide the safety that is needed by the speaker and the campus.
But in terms of the speech itself, I guess is what I'm saying.
I would permit that speech.
Are you with President Pelton over here on everybody
Absolutely.
gets a shot?
I do not think you can make it. Once you start making an exception, ultimately the exception overcomes the rule. You wouldn't have the real provocateur. So you're okay with a provocateur up to here, but not up to here.
First of all, it's not up.
That's
it's not
very
me to
subjective.
make the decision.
But if you were making the decision,
if I was making the decision, I would say that it is our right as administration and as faculty to provide our students with a sense of safety, with a sense that they feel they're being respected and heard. And I would not want to bring in people, specifically the provocateurs, whose job it is to get arguments going and to really make them feel even more unsafe.
how do you provide? I mean, it's taking the position that the two of you have, and Gail's not nearly as far away from you as I thought she would be. How do you guarantee that there's a freedom and diversity of ideas and provide a non-threatening environment for some people who do feel threatened by certain speech, wrongly or rightly, in good faith? They feel not physical safety, but they feel threatened by the content of that speech. What do you do?
Well, I think that sort of emotional safety is very different from physical safety, and by the way, that's a word that is so misused.
Which?
To safety, so misused these days. I mean, we understand that the best learning occurs in a place of discomfort, not in a place of safety.
You don't agree with that. You're a big trigger warning kind of person.
No, I mean, yeah, because, look, you can have discomfort. I mean, there's no question. I mean, that's one of our jobs as professors. But there's a line you cross with discomfort where you can actually traumatize your students, and then they shut down. There's no way they're going to learn anything.
Well, higher education is traumatizing.
No, it's not.
Students have everything they've learned up until the time they
I
get
didn't
to college.
get traumatized.
Let him finish, and then you can,
gets challenged. Some people consider that traumatizing. If it really is traumatizing, they should quit.
I want to get back. I know how you feel, but this is for all of you, but really first for you. I have to say, I'm less concerned about what happens on campus, even though I care. But it's sort of like the trigger warning discussion you and I and others had here a few months ago. If you provide some protection from certain speech that kid is not going to be protected from the second he gets his diploma or she gets their diploma from the president over here, how have you prepared them for the world?
Hold on, I think that was to me.
Exactly.
Just a second. I think. No, what I'm not saying is that you don't have this speech. Trigger warnings is not saying you don't have it.
Forget trigger warnings.
Okay.
I'm talking about, you said there's certain people, certain provocateurs. Well, they're provocateurs out in the real world.
So we prepare them. You don't have to have them in front of you.
How do you prepare them?
Because you discuss it, you analyse it, you use analytical skills, all the stuff we use in classroom. You don't actually have to have them sitting there in front of you.
But they are sitting there in front of you when you get out of school, whether it's on your street, your television screen, or somewhere. Is that part of what concerns you? Not just what happens in the 4 years, but preparing them, I shouldn't call them kids, but that kid for that post-college life?
The mistake here is that this world is somehow pristine and cut off from the real world, and it's not. We saw that in your opening episodes here. So it is part of the real world. And I by the way, I do support some kind of trigger warnings. You go into museums, you have trigger warnings, and so this is nothing new. On the other hand, I do fully support the freedom of expression. Unless, as I said, that expression sort of is not protected by constitutionally protected.
I only have 30 seconds left. I was having a discussion on the radio with Carol Rose, head of the Civil Liberties Union the other day, and I made a statement that she said was dead wrong, and I want to run it by you. I said, for the most part, liberals are more intolerant of the speech of conservatives on college campuses than conservatives are of liberal speech. She said I had it exactly backwards. Do I?
Well, I think today liberals are more intolerant, but it was not too long ago that conservatives were intolerant. It just depends on who's on top and who's on the bottom.
Now, there's a list going
That's
around.
the reason why neutral application of speech principles are so essential.
Excuse me, there is
Final word.
now a list of professors, dangerous professors, that is being put online that are all liberal to left wing. There's no such thing. We don't, on the liberal to the left wing, have a list of dangerous professors. So, no, I think they are way more angry.
Quickly.
I agree with her. I absolutely agree with her.
for that brief statement. Nice to see you. Pleasure. Nice to see
as
you.
always. Thank
and
you.
as you as well.
Yeah, good to
Pleasure.
see you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.